All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Life, liberty, and the
If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Make America great again.
The Big Mig.
Well, welcome back to the Big Mig Show. I'm your host, Lance Miliaccio, of course, with my co-host, George Ballantine. Of course, we're running and gunning, doing what we do, rise and grind. I want to give a shout out to the Big Mig Mafia and subscribers. We appreciate you guys. You know, we really do appreciate everything you guys do for the show. Anytime you can do a Rumble rant or a tip or you subscribe, that really does matter to us because we put all that money back in the show. Now, I want to tell you, we're in full swing on the website. It's going well. We're pretty excited about it. We actually had to miss a meeting earlier today because we had a conflict and a phone call, but otherwise, I guess we're going to try to reschedule that. In the meantime, of course, this is the tip of the spear, and if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear, and that's one thing you can always count on this show. Each and every single episode, George Ballantine and myself, Lance Miliaccio, we will give you the facts, the evidence, the sauce, the receipts. Really, no matter what you call it, at the end of the day, we've done the research so you guys don't have to. We try to cover the top news, top guests, music, obviously finance, of course, on our Global Finance Show now every Friday. And of course, the soon crypto show, Crypto Power Hour, powered by Solum Global. So better be hurt by the truth than comforted with lie, we always say. Election Eve, lots going on. And tonight, we're excited as always. But before we fire up, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Sat123.com. That's sat123.com. If you ever thought about buying a satellite phone, now is the time. Incredibly reasonable prices, especially when you do the volume like these guys do. You can also get a bivvy stick if you don't want a satellite phone. Less cost per month, but it will allow you to text with your loved ones in case of an emergency, and you never know what's going to go on, especially with this government. Hopefully that's going to change very soon, but having a satellite phone as a backup is a real solution because theoretically EMP would not affect it. So definitely check them out. And of course, Original Glory Beer, American Pilsner, American Light, and of course their new product, Cheer. Mike Sadler, a good friend of ours, great friend of the show. We're super excited about. They've been our longest sponsor, and we appreciate everything they do for us. Still got a chance to get in on the crowdfunding. We'll be having Mike on soon enough to find out what's going on. He's also got a big announcement coming, so he wants to come back on the show for that. So we'll have him on soon. And of course, Genesis Gold Group and the Prepper Bar. The 62.2 gram Prepper Bar, available in both gold and silver, perforated, easily broken down to your choice of 3 different denominations to fit a multitude of needs. And you're going to hear stuff on this interview tonight about what's really going on with our dollar, what kind of impact BRICS is going to have. So you might want to get some of these and put them on hand. Silver and gold, obviously gold at an all-time high, silver creeping up there. The only time silver has been higher is when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market. This will protect you from asset protection, obviously, inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade if the U.S. dollar was a tank. Makes a perfect gift for all those precious metal stackers out there like George Ballantine. He loves to stack his silver and gold. Exclusively made in the U.S., mined in the U.S., selling out fast. They just got a new batch of the gold and silver in, so they're stocked right now because they knew the holidays were coming up. But those may not be they may not be around for very long, of course. And this will fit neatly in your wallet for emergencies. You can get one of these nifty little cases it comes with. Of course, you can store it like this also. That's the way George and I store ours. You want to head over to the bigmigbar.com. That's right, the bigmigbar.com. Great place. Go over there. You get a special discount for being with the Big Mig on your Prepper bars.
Or take a screenshot, save it to your files, and then click on that QR code. It will take you right to the site.
Yeah, that way you don't have to leave the show right now. You just get that QR code and boom, you can hit it later. George, my brother, what's shaking, bacon? You had a busy day as usual.
I did. Always busy. I feel like it's nonstop, but you know what? I want to get this interview going because I got to tell you, Lance, I was watching these documentaries right before the show, trying to get them in, and it's like that thriller. You're on that seat like that thriller. You can't wait for the next one.
Well, as always, we've got a great show for you tonight. Of course, you know on this show, it's always about the truth. Tonight, joining us, Dr. Patrick Byrne. He's an American patriot and founder of Overstock.com, a $2 billion enterprise at its peak. He holds a bachelor's degree in Chinese studies from Dartmouth, a master's in philosophy from Cambridge, as a Marshall Scholar, and a PhD in philosophy from Stanford. During his 20 years as CEO, he was recognized as a National Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young. He obviously navigated many significant challenges in driving innovation. He's known for his stance against what he calls the oligarchy, compromising Wall Street and the deep state, dedicating his time and resources to preserving the nation's values. And obviously, with the election imminent, obviously it's the election eve, we thought it was the perfect time to get Patrick on. We actually connected him we were at the Constitutional Sheriff's event in Las Vegas. I bought a copy of his book. That was what he said. Buy a copy of my book. I'd love to come on your show. I got a chance to read it. Obviously, you guys know we've been crazy, crazy busy, as is he. So at the end of the day, here he is. Let's get him in here, George. There's no reason to leave Patrick backstage.
Welcome to the Big Mig Show, Patrick Byrne. How you doing, sir?
Hello, George. Hello, Lance. It's an honor to be on the Big Mig with you. I remember you walking up to me in that Constitutional Sheriff's group.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, buy this book or get this book and I'll come on your show and we'll talk about it. So here we are.
I remember that too. I was witness.
Well, I bring the receipts. I just want you to know I've got the book in hand here. I'm not a big e-book guy. I got to be honest. There's something about books for me, as you can tell from behind me. For me, they're kind of a have and to hold thing. Sometimes I go back and read them a second time because I think there's things you could miss. But man, first of all, I know you're slammed. I mean, new documentary, 3-part series, really a movie. I don't know what I'd call it. It's unbelievable. I got a chance to watch the first 2 segments. Just as interesting as your book. You know, let me ask you, you've obviously been busy, busy, busy. Every time I turn around, I see you pop up here and there. I hear something from Mike Lindell or something from Joe Altman or somebody else. Man, tell me what has been going on. Obviously, the documentary's number one, but you know, with this election tomorrow coming in, what have you been up to?
Well, I've really, over the last 2 years, have been out of the country. I spent the first 2 years after the fake election spinning up with General Michael Flynn, the America Project, and which really was a method to get 100 little groups going, to get a movement going. You know, General Flynn called me on March 5th, 2021, and said, Patrick, look, our country's hanging by a thread. If we have any chance, they've captured all the institutions, the Congress, the White House, the justices are scared of their own shadows. The media, they've got information dominance. The only thing they have not captured is the American people. And if we have any chance, we're going to liberate get a movement going. Come down to Florida with me, and we'll do this together. And he knew I had a big checkbook, and so I went down, and I basically spent my fortune, $60 million of liquidity. My retirement, I hate to be crass about it, everything I had planned to retire on, I just blew. And so everything you see from every little mothers groups getting together and standing up against their local, PTA, teachers about what they're teaching in school, to the constitutional sheriffs, to groups like the Frederick Douglass Society, which is drawing the black community back into its natural home within the party that freed the slaves, the Republicans. Dozens and dozens of these little groups across America. We were basically the angel money or the venture capital money and got them up and spinning very quickly. And I like to think that that's a significant part of that by June of 2021, we had this movement pounding. And of course, General Flynn is the star power. And so that's really what I did. But then for the last 2 years, I've been overseas working on investigations. I don't know if you've seen any of the movies I put up, but I've basically been investigating Venezuela and reconstructing what's happened over the last 25 years in Venezuela. Did you happen to come across, I have a Twitter video on it that like 4 million people have seen. I don't know if you came across that. But
yeah, I did see that. And you know, so we watch you, we follow you over on X. We're on True Social and all the platforms. Obviously, you try to stay on top of the people that you think are the real truth tellers. Not really that easy in this environment. George and I go through constantly that, you know, the operation is significant. It's extremely sophisticated, and the brainwashing intent, obviously, and the controlled narratives that, you know, look at the paid operations, whether they pay influence or otherwise. So when we find somebody like yourself or otherwise that we think's a truth teller, like Sarah Adams or, you know, people that she's actually a CIA targeter, and some other people like Sami Sadat from obviously Afghanistan, the last commander. There's quite a few of us that network behind the scenes. We're very close to General Flynn. We talk to him quite a bit behind the scenes. Of course, Roger Stone's another person we talk to significantly. So we keep ourselves relatively looped. General Brigadier Anthony Tata, he's another resource, and other people. So we're pretty lucky. Some of my background, we get pretty well connected with some of the people that used to be in the intelligence organizations here and outside of the United States. So it's somewhat helpful. But, you know, it's interesting. You've had this path that people find it, difficult. Like I said, you're kind of an enigma to a lot of people. And when they read a book like this, you know, the title Domestic Extremist #1 Comes Clean, you know, you obviously were an incredible entrepreneur. And I just want to give people some background because I didn't know this about you. First of all, we have something in common that I'm going to bring out right now that you do not know that we had in common. I used to sell Christmas trees as a kid also.
Great business, a lot of fun. That was a great time in my life.
There's something else though.
Did you used to sell Christmas trees, George? Don't even say that, George. Did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but we know something we all have in common. Like
What's
my
that?
dad had a car dealership. I grew up on car sales. The guy right next to you, look at it. So did Lance. So that's
No, but it's funny how you have these
just 11
facts,
years
right?
old. Yeah.
I was in the car business, but it's interesting. When I read the connection to Warren Buffett and Geico and some of the other things in your life, it's really interesting. Now, let me ask you a question. Did you get mentored by Warren Buffett somewhat? Did you have interaction with him regularly when you were young?
Oh, yeah, although now because of everything that's gone on, he probably doesn't like me. But he was really my Dutch uncle, you would say. I had two Dutch uncles, one in the national security community and one was later, and one was Mr. Buffett. And Mr. Buffett, I met him when I was 13. It was before anyone knew who Warren Buffett was. His name hadn't even been in the papers, really. And he was just this unassuming Midwestern guy who met my father, took a fancy to him. They became friends. He started staying with us, and he was extraordinarily generous in giving many hours of his time. He would come and stay with us. And I was 13, and I knew it was weird because my parents wouldn't let me skip school for anything, except when this guy Buffett was coming, my mom would go and get a case of Pepsi and put it in the fridge. And he would say, have Patrick take Tuesday morning off from school and we'll spend 2 hours together. And he would just take 2 hours to sit with me and teach me about life. It was extraordinary. I was 13, 14, 15. Really, that continued for many years. And later,
crazy.
I ran a group of companies for him. But I was in college when his name first even appeared in the paper. And I thought, this is odd. Like the whole world is getting to read what a smart guy is. I call him Rabbi. We've had this joke for years that basically Rabbi describes what his relationship would be with me.
Yeah, I had an interesting guy named Lieutenant Donald Prosser and Lieutenant Colonel Donald Prosser. And he was actually a guy, he died in 2017, but he actually was a guy that kind of took me under his wing when I was a contractor back then, learned a lot from him. So kind of the same environment, but the Christmas tree cracked me up because I was thinking, I remember hustling those. We used to buy them for, I think for the smaller ones, $5 and maybe as much as the blue spruces might have been $9 or something. And, we were in New York State, Hartsdale, New York. We had a place down there that we'd bring them into and sell them down there, made quite a bit of money doing it. It was a good hustle. You said you did it for 4 years. I think I had about the same turning point also.
How old were you when you did that?
Me? Him.
I was maybe 16, 17, 18, and 19. And we'd buy them for $5 to $8 a piece in Pennsylvania. We'd rent a Ryder truck. My brother was old enough to get a Ryder truck, and he would drive it down. We get 500 trees, and we'd sell them in the Bethesda, Maryland area for sort of $25 to $30 a tree.
Yeah.
And so $20 a tree, on 500 trees is $10,000 of gross, minus a couple $1,000s of expense. So to make in 1980 to make
Big money.
$8,000 for 3 kids in 2 weeks, it's just we invented the wheel. We thought that was.
Wasn't $25-$30 for a Christmas tree back then expensive?
Yeah,
No, not in the right locations. I mean, that was good money, but I think that's right target on, because we used to get, you had the Scotch pines, the blue spruces, and then you had the balsas. That is all.
Right, and we used to make up. God, my oldest brother, who's still alive, John, we called the silver shovel because he could shovel some bullshit.
Yeah, you needed a golden tongue. Now, we were doing it in New York, but you guys kind of had the same environment. You had to put your hustle on, because everybody was trying to negotiate for a deal. And then during the summers, because fireworks were illegal in New York, we used to go buy van loads full of fireworks in Chinatown, and then bring them into the residential neighborhoods and put them in the garages. Of course, I think that was the hustle of every Italian back at that time in our neighborhood, but that's what we did. But anyway, I'm digressing too much, and I know we don't have a ton of time. Let's talk about the book first, because I obviously want to get to the docuseries, because that's obviously the big news. Listen, you obviously highly successful. A lot of people don't realize what your covert life was really like. But I got to ask you, you obviously had the world by the balls. You were just killing it. I know you love your country. It's obvious from many things in there. But what motivated you to write Danger Close? Because obviously you're really exposing yourself. Because I know about those 16-page agreements and what you're not supposed to talk about. And you're obviously right on that line. How did your personal experiences shape that narrative? What made you write the book to begin with? What said, enough's enough, I'm going to write the book?
Well, I'm probably well over that line, and I was warned by the DOJ. Every secret you've revealed is 15 years, Byrne. William Barr sent me that message back in summer 2019. My country's burning down. It's like, sometimes only a bureaucrat would sit here and follow that rule. Of course, the truth is, and I've never shared this, the book is about, let's say there's the truth, the real truth, and the real truth. And maybe there's about a 5% difference between them. The truth is 90% true, the real truth is 95, and the real truth is 100. That book is the truth. But even in that book, I've smeared a bunch of things to protect Uncle Sam and everywhere I could.
Sure.
Anything that wasn't relevant, I've smeared a little detail here or there so things could be reconstructed. If I'm ever in front of a Senate committee, I'll tell the real truth, which is to say 95%. And if somebody wants the real truth, I'll go over and I'll whisper. There's a couple little points that I'll whisper in the ear of the chairman, but I'm never going to say, I don't care what they throw at me on the record in any sense.
I just want to bring something. You made a point. You said if I'm ever in front of the Senate committee, so many people can go in front of the Senate committee, but they never do nothing. They get all this stuff, and it's just like a clown show. They're not doing anything.
They're afraid of me. They know all about me. They know all about this. Both sides are afraid of me talking. It's really kind of weird. They know there's people there who know everything in that book is true. They know about the story that's in the documentary. It burns down so much of Washington D.C. My story. It's kind of hard to even explain it. I'm interested to see how other people tell the story, so I don't have to. It's kind of like the movie The Sting. Inside the movie, The 3 Days of the Condor. Inside the movie Michael Clayton. It's kind of hard to unravel, I think.
Well, obviously you discuss a lot of stuff in the book. You took high levels of risk, right? And obviously your path as a CEO and dealing with Wall Street, and of course your upbringing, it doesn't surprise me that you were able to navigate the mental and emotional part. But did you ever find yourself? I didn't then. My moral and ethical compass was quite a bit different years ago. Now I look back and think to myself, I was in high stakes situations, and did I morally, ethically cross the line? And I have to say yes. Did you find yourself looking at yourself a lot of times and going, man, this is really riding that line right here. I'm not sure I should even be involved in this.
Well, yeah, but I got over that. I got over that early. Actually, I put all my faith. I'm so naive. I put all my faith in Uncle Sam, and that if they were telling me to do something, it was all for the good in the country, and I did it. Now I realize that, I came to understand in 2015, 2016, I was misused. So I'm sure there's a bunch of angry people in the federal government about me. And, they're not on my Christmas card list either. I didn't break our trust first. They broke our trust. And I still have looked out for them, the ones who deserve it. But I had on top, even when things got very ambiguous or worse than ambiguous, I had this uber assignment. And I described that in the book, the thing about the Senate Judiciary Committee of 2006. Shall I maybe even start there, in a sense? The Senate Judiciary Committee became aware in 2005 that I had this kind of strange relationship with the U.S. with Uncle Sam. And I want to be clear, I'm not a spy. I've really not been used as a spy. I'm more of an academic type but I'm interested in peace. And there were times I could do something that helps nudge the ox cart of peace. And so when there were those kinds of taskings available, they knew they could call on me. I speak several languages and I'm comfortable internationally. So let
me hold you there for a sec, because the audience doesn't probably know this about you, because I have a moderately photogenic memory, but not to the quality of yours. Obviously, that's an incredible tool. I'm sure the government, once they identified that you were capable of that, probably from using surveillance and seeing that your story matched exactly what you were telling them. Do you think that also propelled you, that they realized that you were obviously well educated, really sophisticated, highly intelligent, and now you add that memory in line? Maybe you can share with the audience. You first identified that memory, I guess your family did, when you were very young.
Yes, there was all number of, right? Well, I had a terrible speech impediment. I had a series of them. I lisped, I stuttered, I said wabbit, and instead of coconut, I was like coconut. So you put all that together, no one can understand me. So my mother would help me get over it by teaching me poetry. She always had a book of poetry, and I was always memorizing poetry. And I could recite poetry without stuttering and much more clearly. And so that's probably what it was, a lot of poetry memorization. And then there was this day that she was playing a game with me and discovered
the cards.
She was playing this flashcard game with me and discovered that I could sort of look that I'll remember that, I just did. She wondered if I could do 5 cards, 6 cards, 7 cards. It kept growing and growing. And then my father came in from skiing, and she took him in the kitchen. I heard them muttering in there. I was about 5 maybe. And he came out, and he was a mathematician. He was a very brilliant guy. And he ended up just using the whole deck, and then he got out a pen and paper. We got up to about 150 things to remember, and I could recite them all every which way. And that's so, but it's not intelligence. I promise anyone who knows me knows I'm really thick in many ways, but I do have this.
You memorize everything.
I memorize. I love math, and I love doing that kind of stuff.
I bet the casinos love you. Wait.
Are you able to?
I bet the casinos love them.
I learned counting early back, and it worked when you had 1 or 2 deck shoes. When they used to deal single deck or 2 decks, but then by the time I was 20, the casinos had all gone to 4 decks and stuff. And when you do that, the shoe never gets ripe. You can sit there all night, the shoe's not ripe enough.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Of course, at the end of the day, do you find yourself being able to selectively do it, or is it one of those things where you're just taking lots of material all the time?
No, it's selectively. I have to focus. It's called an eidetic memory. I can focus and burn something.
I match it to images. When you want to remember something, you match it to an image, whether it's a card or a number or something in your past. I try to match it to an image. That's just how mine's always worked. But so you listen. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Technique, and you can. That's a very good technique, and that is sometimes what I use. I do speeches that way, and if you want to cover 11 points in a speech, you think of a favorite walk, and you pick out 11 points on the walk, and you associate one with 1 point, and you can get up without any notes in front of 1,000 people and speak and give a very dense, detailed 11-point speech, and in your mind, you're just walking from my home to the library. There's 11 little things you pass, and it's really simple, and people, so there's techniques like that, definitely.
So let me ask you, obviously during these operations that you were involved in that are listed in the book, You've been called what, the Messiah of Bitcoin? Do I have that right? That's right, right? The Messiah of Bitcoin.
Wired magazine calls me the Messiah of Bitcoin back then.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, we know where this is heading. We know where digital currency and on the blockchain, obviously, one of the most important changes to our financial systems. Anybody that's bucking it is crazy. We have a new show that's going to be coming out called the Crypto Power Hour. That's our next big show that George and I are going to be producing. We're doing it with Solum Global, a crypto company. But you saw digital surveillance. You've dealt with these government agencies. We've talked about many of them having gone rogue and obviously exceeding what their charter authorizes legally. What's your take on this? Now that you've been in the belly of the beast, right? And you've been there and seen it and done it. Where do you think the American public stands when it comes to this government and government agencies like the CIA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and of course the DIA and the NSA?
Well, I originally saw blockchain, and the underlying technology is called blockchain. Bitcoin isn't really the main event.
Yeah, of course.
And I saw it as this great force for freedom, because I see all these institutions in society as being corrupt, and you can recreate them within blockchain, and you can't corrupt them. Because we have seen that the oligarchs can buy themselves senators and congressmen and journalists and regulators and everything else in the world. But even Goldman Sachs can't buy itself an exception to the laws of mathematics and computation theory. And since that's all what is under cryptography is all underneath the blockchain, I saw it as a way to rebuild all these institutions of society so they would be honest and impossible to corrupt. In about 2016, I was invited to speak to the Treasury. The truth is, and this is going to rub a lot of your viewers the wrong way. If you know that I'm the inventor of CBDCs. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
If you Google my name and the word Barbados, you will discover that I did the first CBDC in the world 7-8 years ago in Barbados. I figured out that you could do this. I figured out that the layers of society, the focus was going to be, the most important thing was land titling, because rule of law and civilization starts with land titling. Then a central bank, so you have money, a way for humans to communicate about value and scarcity. Then you have capital markets, supply chains, and voting. And I, 10 years ago, picked out those fields and said, I want to dominate those. Those are the most fundamental forces of the new civilization that will emerge. And I went around and found, can you guys see me still? Or did we freeze?
Oh, yeah, no, you're good.
You're good.
You know what I'm going to do in case we freeze? I'm going to switch to a hotspot, which seems to be better than this hotel.
So far,
You're good. You haven't freezing or nothing yet. You're good.
You've been great so far. And for the audience, just so you know, what he mentioned there when he said CBDC, central bank digital currency, I'm not sure everybody in the audience comprehended that, but you understand that that's where the market is heading. We're not going to be on this. We may still be on a fiat dollar, but it may be a digital fiat dollar here in the U.S. We'll see how that actually pans out. But obviously, digital currency is going to be the primary thing all across the globe. Go ahead, Patrick. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, please do. It's a conversation. And about 2016, I was into the Treasury, and other government agencies were there.
Yeah.
I was invited in, I spoke, and I say, listen, what Russia and China are going to do is this. They don't need to attack with armies. They're going to create a gold-backed digital currency. And when they introduce it, we all love the global reserve status of the dollar. But when they introduce this, it's just a better mousetrap. It's just a better mousetrap. And if you folks will permit me, and there's no way to beat it. It's like if Pepsi introduces something that tastes better than Coke, and Coke can get as mad as they want and scream, but it's a better innovation. At the end of the day, the blockchain technology is better than our current financial world and SWIFT and all this stuff. And if it were gold backed, if Russia and China did something that was gold backed, what I predicted back then, and I still predict, although it's now sort of showing up in the press, is that at the time it was thought that the U.S. had 8,000 tons of gold. Russia and China had 2,000 or 3,000 tons each. And I said, China, everyone in the gold world knows China and Russia have both been secretly accumulating a lot more. And someday they're going to come out and they say, we got 20,000 tons of gold each. Here's a new digital currency. It's gold convertible in Shanghai and St. Petersburg. And the whole world's going to switch off the dollar to that because it's a better mousetrap.
Now, what year, Patrick, did you say that?
2016 at a luncheon at the
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, because for the audience, in case you haven't made the connection yet, he's talking about BRICS, basically. Here we are with the prediction that BRICS was going to come. And you're right. You don't need a kinetic event to take down a country. That's been proven over and over again. The economic jackals destabilized many governments working with the world banking system. They were really good at it. So BRICS is the ultimate tool by the CCP. We talk to the NFSC regularly, the new federal state of China, if you know them. They have lots of people inside the CCP, so they're one of our sources, and they have been talking about the weaponization of BRICS. And of course, they also believe that China is deeply involved in Bitcoin, and they may have a plan down the road that they might actually have a parallel, at least one and maybe two parallel Bitcoin systems that may in fact have the same 21 million Bitcoins in them. And then at some point in an attempt to hurt the financial markets, they may announce that. But go ahead, Patrick.
And I agree. Although I'm the messiah of Bitcoin, says Wired, I don't store wealth anymore in Bitcoin because I think that the CCP has some nefarious. They can fork it. There's things anyway.
Yeah.
So what I just described is, in fact, what Putin's just had a meeting in Russia on the BRICS, where basically that's what they're doing. They're introducing this new currency. It's going to be gold backed. And I told them that, Uncle Sam, back then, the way to beat this, you can't hold a gun to the whole world and say, oh, you got to stay on the gold, on the US dollar. I said, the way to beat this is let me innovate something better. I can innovate something better, a US dollar, gold backed, convertible. At the time, I just thought it'd be convertible in the US. Now I would say do a convertible Switzerland. If you had a US gold-backed digital currency convertible in Switzerland, the world would far prefer it to China, Russia. And as an Austrian economist by background, like a Ron Paul type, I like gold back. I wish we ran on gold.
Asset backed.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Listen, we're going to a digital We're going to a digital currency, whether people like it or not. The question is, a friend of mine said, if the good guys can get a hold of it first, we have a chance. They could have 2016, right, George?
I had this built. I said, if you folks can keep the regulators out of my way, I can build all this. I was 5 years ahead of China. I was over in the Chinese labs, saw where they were. I was 5 years in front of them. And I said, I can build this, and we will have a better capital market, a better central bank, a better everything than these guys, and we'll be 5 years ahead of them. And we can, but well, my experience, folks, has been that I did some things from 05 to 08 to challenge like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley.
Yeah.
They personally own regulators and senators who make life difficult for me. I said, I'm running a public company. I'm not going to commit hundreds of millions of capital to this unless you promise to keep them out of my face. And they all committed. The Uncle Sam committed that they would keep, and I should run and build this. And I got it built by about 2019. And it's turned out, and suddenly Uncle Sam turned and started shoving all these sticks in my spokes. Turns out it was Peter Strzok. And it turns out that when I broke from them, I really broke from them in about 2018. They knew I was lying to them. I was because of the events of 2015, 2016, I knew that I was sitting on a great big secret. And I kind of kept it up until 2018. By 2018, I was deliberately getting myself fired. They said they came and they disrupted what we were doing at Overstock. That's one of the reasons I felt I had to back away. But it turns out underneath it all, it was Peter Strzok. It was some terrible people in the government were the guys who were, and I think that they're Chinese agents, actually. I think that they're agents of China. And I think that's what.
Yeah, and it's interesting, George. I'm going to throw to you here in a second because I want to hear what you had to say about that. We obviously cover gold and silver. We cover BRICS on our shows, the Global Finance Forum that we do on Fridays. But George and I are involved in a company that actually allowed you to trade blue chip crypto for bullion. That's a company called Solum Global. It's actually great. And I'd love to make an introduction. I'm sure it would be an interesting dialogue between the founder and yourself, especially with your background and his background. He's had a bunch of successful ventures in Silicon Valley, but he's got a great concept. What he plans to do is to take this company and basically make it so that you can trade it for gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and then the next step would be all commodities. That blue chip cryptos would be tradable for wheat, corn, obviously steel, zinc, lead. And it's an interesting, it's a great concept. Right now they're in some, funding rounds and that. But the reason I think it's a good concept is because there's always this question, Bitcoin needs the blockchain, but the blockchain doesn't really need Bitcoin. But there are many other parts of the blockchain like XRP, Solana, that the blockchain benefits from those relationships. And I think Solum's trying to come in as the commodities broker for the blockchain, which obviously could have really far-reaching potential. But George, you and I have talked about gold, hitting new all-time highs. We believe part of it's by BRICS. We also think that silver, for example, the military technology needs are through the roof. I mean, a Tomahawk missile, I believe, needs 500 ounces of silver just for the warhead. So you look at those numbers, and of course, you probably know about Samsung's new EV technology. They've got a new technology, obviously takes 9 or 10 minutes charging time. And of course, you can get 30 to 40% more drive time. But of course, you need 1 kilo of silver per EV. So the silver demand between, and obviously India is also accumulating silver at their highest rate ever. So you look at all these things. A lot of people are predicting $200 or $300 an ounce. George, what did gold hit the other day? Are we at 2,700 and change? I think, correct? Is that right, George?
It was. I'm actually looking up right now just to get that number for us. But let me see.
I think it's going to 30 or 40,000. When everything reprices, I think it's 30, 40, 50,000. Is what it
a lot of people say that 4,800 is imminent, and I don't disagree with you on what you're saying. Some people think when the banking system does this whole reset, there's going to be a lot of changes that would implement silver at a minimum. People are predicting just with the demand for military, the accumulation for the BRICS nations in India, and of course the Samsung technology. We're looking at every bit of 200-300 an ounce on silver. I want your input on this, Patrick, because our audience, there are a lot of the people in our audience, they're stackers. They like to buy gold and silver. They're holding it. They think about it. They've anointed themselves stackers across the country. You know that anybody that accumulates any kind of silver or gold in bullion numbers. George, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Price of gold right now is $27.39 and silver is $32.50. Well, silver just went up
other
more.
than the Hunt Brothers accumulation period, which we probably both know because we're old enough to remember that, silver's at the next all-time high, and gold is obviously past that. So we'll see where that goes. But let me go back here. I want to go back for a minute because you were in the middle of an operation that I actually covered, did a lot of research. And I know that was a moment when you transitioned and you said, look, if I don't get that presidential immunity letter or that intelligence agency immunity letter, and I know what those look like, I'm not going to go forward. What you're asking me to do is set up a United States congressperson, and this is Operation Snow Globe, Hillary Clinton. And that's
Secretary of State.
Yeah, and I think that's right. She was Secretary of State. You're correct. I stand corrected. But I think I'm also minimizes. That was really kind of an epiphany moment for you, right? You'd been going forward and doing everything you could to help them, and then you realized kind of interim. But tell me about Operation Snow Globe. What's happened since then? Do you think, where do you think that's going? Anywhere?
Well, Operation Snow Globe was Thanksgiving 2015. I was sat down by my handlers, and they said, listen, the Bureau needs your help on something really important. We're going to be setting Hillary Clinton up for a bribe, up in a sting. And there's a group of agents checking her emails, and we all know that's a whitewash, Patrick, but there's a group in New York looking into the Clinton finances, and they really want to get her. And Director Comey's been holding back aggressive investigative techniques, but some information has come in that she took a bribe, and the agents in New York have used that to get permission to set her up in a sting. And you're going to be doing that for us. And I said, fellas, everything we do, we've done on a handshake. But
remember that.
You're asking, you asked me to call it a federal election.
It's the deep
I need
throat
I need that letter. You know what? When I watched that part, I was
Can we
like,
get a couple of those letters? Because I can go to work if I can get that letter.
yeah. But when I saw that part, I was like, yes, Patrick, yes. And then they came back at you like it came from the top. And
they came back a few days later and they said, we've been told to tell you you can't be given a letter, but the director says if you'll go to Washington, but if you'll go to Washington, the director says you can be shown a letter. And I said, oh, so this is coming from Director Comey. And 2 federal agents leaned in and said,
You know, whenever I hear the name Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Strozik, any of those names make me absolutely cringe. It's always tough. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break. George is playing that commercial break music. I don't want to take the break, but I'm going to take the break because it's part of what we do on this show. It's how our sponsors get what they get. All right, listen, Big Mig Mafia and subscribers, don't go anywhere. When we come back, Patrick Byrne. Stay tuned. More info on Operation Snow Globe.
If we lose freedom here, there is no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
As an American who keeps up with the real news, you know by now the severity of the economic issues that are plaguing our great nation. My name is Jonathan Rose and I'm the CEO of Genesis Gold Group, the only major faith-driven company in the industry. 2024 is a year full of uncertainties, with trillions of dollars in national debt, inflation impacting your savings, and a pivotal election year. Your peace of mind is more valuable than ever. Now is the time to use physical gold and silver to preserve your hard-earned retirement savings with a gold IRA. Call Genesis Gold Group today. Our team has decades of experience helping folks just like you take their first step on the path to true financial freedom with a gold and silver IRA.
Call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD for a no-commitment, informative consultation with one of our experts to find out if we can be a fit for you. Call now at 1-800-200-4653 or visit genesisgoldgroup.com.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from .999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar, the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. The smart choice for savvy investors and preppers alike. With Silver Prepper Bars, you're ready for whatever tomorrow brings.
They would run up to the bamboo fence and they would be shooting between the bamboo at the buildings, you know, and just shooting inside.
The wanted man is Joseph Kony, charged with abducting huge numbers of children, forcing them to kill and mutilate innocent victims.
Somebody had to pay the price. Sam did that.
Sam Childers never stopped because the bad things never stop.
There is only one Sam Childers. There is no one else like him in the world.
And I said to him, I says, would you go now to get Kony in the Congo? He says, without a doubt, in a second.
Now it's the DRC. Tell us what's happening to children in the DRC.
You have ISIS there, you have Islamic State, and you have ADF.
They say Joseph Kony's still alive. He's in the Congo, and now God has me in the Congo. You know, so hopefully we'll meet up one day. But maybe I can lead him to the Lord or send him there, one or the other, huh?
All right, welcome back to the Big Mig Show. Here with your host, George Ballantine, Lance Migliaccio, and our special guest, Patrick Byrne. But first, I got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. We all know the start of this year has been marked by economic uncertainty with persistent inflation and rising interest rates. Despite the Federal Reserve's efforts to manage a soft landing, signs of impending recession are evident. This has led to a surge in interest in physical gold and silver, with many Americans transferring their retirement accounts to precious metals. Companies like Genesis Gold Group, which focuses on self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals, have experienced high demand. Genesis Gold Group, they're known for their faith-based values and stellar reputation, offers a service that allows individuals to convert their 401ks or IRA into a retirement account backed by physical gold and silver stored securely on behalf of the customer. They also offer a free IRA guide. That's right, free. Has a lot of information there, very educational. I suggest you get one. So you can roll over your IRA penalty-free by calling Genesis now at 888-526-7154. That's 888-526-7154. Or go to www.bigmiggold.com. And don't forget to mention the Big Mig Show. You can have your IRA setup fees waived on qualifying accounts. And you also get that free IRA guide. See this little QR code here, baby? Take a screenshot, save it to your photo files. You click on it later, it'll take you right to the Big Mig Gold site. All right, back to our regular programming. All right, Patrick, there's a question I have to ask. People always wanted to know the answer, so I'm just going to flat out ask it, so this way we can get it over it. You still work for the FBI?
Oh, are you kidding? I'm on so many. I am literally domestic. When sheriffs go into training to DC or new hires come into the DHS and they ask, literally, I got this message in August of 2022. When people are going through training at the DHS, be they new recruits or sheriff, local law enforcement, and they say, who do you fear more, China and Russia? China or Russia? The DHS is telling them, well, we worry about China, we worry about Russia, but above all, we worry about this guy, Patrick Byrne, and the movement he's got going. It's literally.
There you go, people. You have your answer.
Congratulations.
All right, but
yeah.
all right, well,
number one.
I want you to know, Patrick, we're happy to be on your staff, but I don't want anything less than enemy number 5 on the list. I don't want to be any lower than 5. So as long as you can guarantee me that position, I'm good to go. George, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I was also going to say, in defense of them, I believe 85, 90% of the government's on my side. I get messages everywhere when I'm in the country.
Yeah.
Federal people from all parts of the from the TSA people high-fiving me because they know I stood up. One of the things the America Project did was fight for the first 2 years medical freedom. We funded all of these lawsuits that reduced the number of jabs people got. We backed a lieutenant colonel who was fighting back on the jabs. We backed all these lawsuits. We were funding. We were the angel investors in most of the ones you've heard about, and some of them we were angel and venture capital. In other words, we funded from either the initial startup to funding like most of the lawsuits or even all of the lawsuits. So all these federal people, we were the ones who stood up for them and kept them from getting jabs, and everybody knows that. The DHS, these people don't. These people. I mean, I've had such support from not only DHS, but other agencies that people have said, in fact, people have sent me messages saying, double down, Byrne, double down. We got your back, double down. This country's going to collapse. I literally got a message last December saying, double down on what you're doing. We got you. So,
well, there's only a few people that have the background you have or the knowledge you have and the ability to have doubled down. It's frightening because we realize that so many organizations are corrupt. George, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off there.
No, this is another off-the-wall question. But as far as Bitcoin, there's a lot of speculation on who owns it. I think Lance, we think part of our esteemed 3-letter agency owns it, or we're part of building it. Probably namely CIA.
It wouldn't be CIA. It would be NSA here, the great.
That's correct.
Yeah.
However, the thing to know about Bitcoin is they have the standard, the 51% thing, which is that 51% of whatever 51% of the servers out there say is the truth, that's the truth. Well, China is known, my stats may be a little bit off, but it was the case. China was known to have sort of 35 to 40% of the computing power under their thumb. But
Three Gorges Dam.
Yeah. What people leave out, though, is there's a company called Antminer, which sells boxes. And those boxes get used in mining all over the world. Well, some years ago, 5-6 years ago, it was discovered that there was a script inside So they could be hijacked from China. So somebody in Norway is mining Bitcoin, or somebody in Argentina is mining Bitcoin, but anytime Xi Jinping wanted, he could trigger something and take over the machines. When you counted it that way, China controlled 75% of the Bitcoin, which means Xi Jinping could wake up any day he wants and says, okay, all the Bitcoin in the world is owned by my wife. Now, I understand even Antminer, when this was exposed, they kind of just said, yeah, well, and they put a patch in. There's no real explanation about why they had done that. And the answer is, so I think China can really hijack Bitcoin. So I don't even consider.
I'll tell you something frightening. The NFSC said, and they have great sources within the CCP. So that's the new federal state of China. They're the people that were associated with Miles Guo, obviously incarcerated at this point for, I guess, a conspiracy and many other charges, racketeering he's obviously being held in the New York State gulag. But they are saying that right now there's at least one parallel network that's identical, and people don't really recognize it. There may be as many as two parallel networks, that there are mirrored sets of Bitcoin. One that, because supposedly the value of Bitcoin is only 21 million coins in existence. Some of them have been lost and burned. Obviously, some of them ended up in a landfill. We know that story. At the end of the day, they're saying that there is a second blockchain network that's parallel and you can't tell it. And in fact, China controls this other network, and it may be even two networks, but they guarantee there's one of them. Whether that's true, I have no idea. But I want to get back to Hillary Clinton. I want to get back to that because I think the audience wants to know that, and then I want to get into the docuseries. Hillary Clinton, Operation Snow Globe. The audience has heard the stories. I know them to be true. You want to just share with the audience at least your perception, because I know you had to you need to forget all of this.
I won't give you the word for word anymore. Well, I'll finish that other story I was telling you, that they leaned over and they said, yes. When I said, does it really come from Comey? Two agents said, they said Comey and the president, and two agents said, and I said, you can tell Director Comey and President Obama, from them's good enough for me, consider Hillary bribed. 7 weeks later, she took a bribe, $18 million from Azerbaijan. What's really important, though, is what happened afterwards, which was I was told to forget it. And what eventually was explained was, this was early February 2016, President Obama has his people across the federal bureaucracy, Patrick, but especially the DOJ. The information about the bribes, Hillary is going to be president. Nothing's going to change that. But think of there as being a Bunsen burner within the DOJ. The information about the bribes is going to sit on the Bunsen burner. The hand on the Bunsen burner is going to be one of Barack Obama's people. He's a good girl, defends Obamacare, the flame stays low. If she's a bad girl, thinks for itself, it gets turned up. Barack Obama is going to manage Hillary Clinton for 8 years, then she steps down and Michelle's going to run. And Patrick, that's the plan. That was called Operation Snow Globe. And Brennan and Comey wanted Hillary to step into a snow globe that they and Obama could own the whole time she was president, like a child's Christmas story.
Sure.
My bribe was simply the bait to lure her to step into the snow globe. So this isn't a theory. I participated. This coup against America began in Thanksgiving of 2015 under Barack Obama, John Brennan, and James Comey. I was part of it. It's not a theory. People could say I'm lying, in which case I say put us all in a room. Put us all in a room, put us on TV. I'll come back to the U.S. just for that. And put us all in a room and let's see. And, I can name names. There's agents I could call. It's a piece of cake.
Do you think that there's, of course, we all know the story about Obama's birth certificate. We all know the story about his own brother outing him. We've heard the stories about Big Mike Obama and the rest of it. What do you know about Project Renegade? Anything?
I've never heard of it. And I don't really like those things about Big Mike. I think I don't like that because be aware that people can social scientists look on Tinder sites and can gather mathematical realize that unfortunately black women are considered the least attractive in society. And that's horrible. I know beautiful black women. And so when we say Big Mike, what we're saying, if you're wrong about that, that's really very hurtful to a lot of black women. Now, it may be the case, you never know for sure, that's different. But all that said, I think that, I'm sorry, what was your question beyond that?
Well, my question was that there was an FBI whistleblower that came out and talked about Project Renegade, that in fact Barack Obama was created for the position under an operation called Project Renegade, that they took this unknown individual and they groomed him for that position so that they can install him as president of the United States. That in fact, he wasn't qualified to do so, obviously because of his birth. And he acknowledged that when he was a senator. But I always wondered if Operation Renegade, the whistleblower that came out, if in fact that was authentic. And what I was indicating is we've heard lots of conspiracy theories about, and again, I say conspiracy theories because nobody's ever really gotten to the bottom of it. Is the birth certificate story true? Is the story about Michelle true? Who knows? At the end of the day, there's lots of that. But the one that has a lot of authenticity, and it seems to really be credible, is that Operation Renegade that was just disclosed maybe 3 years ago. Of course, it didn't get a lot of traction, and then they tried to clean it off the internet.
Yeah, it's quite plausible to me. Here's the thing I know for sure that gets buried in history. The whole birther thing didn't start with Donald Trump and didn't start with the right wing. The birther thing was started by Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has a lifelong butt boy, Sid Blumenthal, something like that, I think his name is.
I don't know. Oh, you know him, George?
He's the guy who started it in the 08 primaries. He's the guy who started the whole birther thing. And it was Hillary Clinton is the one who started the whole birther thing. Trump came along in 2012 and made some noise about it, but it was Hillary Clinton in the 08 primaries who started that whole birther movement. And in addition, I have seen I had at Overstock 40 different graphic artists work for me, and I showed them that YouTube video showing how the birth certificate
it's different layers.
Yeah, even the original one, when you download it from the government site, we actually had that on the show the other day just to show people that you can actually remove the layers, and there's no doubt that it puts the birth certificate in question. Why, who, what? I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it. Maybe somebody will, but it's just like 9/11. It's like the Epstein files. It's one of those things that right now nobody seems to want to really get on top of.
I've always thought that it's probably the case he was born in the U.S., but maybe his father was not the name that was on that certificate, and so that's why they had to compile this other one. But at this point, that's what I would say. But boy, in Kenya, they sure think that he was born in Kenya. I mean, his
brother does, but
his brother sure does.
So the guy's he's Sidney Blumenthal. Yeah, he worked for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
but so it's really not Obama with the power. It's the people that are running Obama. And
it's George Soros. It's the whole Central European crew. Soros, Klaus Schwab, the Rothschilds, the Vatican. They're all dirty. They have a different vision of the world, that the world should collapse, and the nation-state system that we've had for 350 years from the Treaty of Westphalia should collapse, and it should be replaced by a new global order where a bunch of organizations like the UN, WHO, WEF.
World Economic Forum.
Sure, and they get together in their big meetings at Davos and the Bilderbergs, and of course, any of those meetings, they can Trilateral Commission, Clinton Foundation on Foreign Relations. They get together and have these discussions about everybody and what their plan is for all of us. I don't like any of them personally. Not that I ever will be, but if I was president of the United States, they would all be on the International Terrorist Watch List, which allowed me to take military action. I'm not a big fan of any of those groups trying to decide what should happen to our country or to our people as a group. But I want to switch gears here because I know you're tight for time. I know you've got another interview not too far out. Melissa told me about it. Let's get to The Enemy Within, this 3-part docuseries. And for the audience, a gripping 3-part docuseries with Patrick Byrne. He transitioned from CEO of Overstock.com to one of the most controversial whistleblowers of our time. Each episode unveils a different chapter of Byrne's fight against the deep state. Obviously, the part 1, it tells the story. I'm going to have you do it because I think it's most important. We've got the website up there, and I'm going to say this. I've only watched the first 2 segments for the audience. I am going to recommend.
You want to play the trailer?
ASAP. Let's play the trailer to begin with, and let's have Patrick talk about it after that, George.
Here we go.
My name is Patrick Byrne, domestic extremist threat number 1. Or not. Perhaps I'm just somebody who's willing to say the emperor has no clothes. You can decide for yourself.
Patrick Byrne, they're following everything that you've been working on.
Yes, sir. Understood.
You may know of me as the CEO of this $2 billion e-commerce company, but really, I have this other life.
You have an unusual relationship with the United States government?
Sir, why are you bringing this up?
The FBI needed me to set up a bribe.
We can't have agents running around creating crimes.
You know, it would violate too many rules for us to do it, but if you're willing to go do it, we'll look the other way.
Hello, my name is Maria Butina.
Then I would make it happen. Instead of being happy, they say,
Just let it play.
what?
Let it play.
Now, I know this may look like the Deep Throat scene from All the President's Men, but where do you think that stuff comes from? These things happen.
What you think you know.
I was encouraged to have a relationship,
What you think you are.
and it's heated up.
I'm going to meet the Trumps.
I was starting to realize the feds were using Maria to smudge up the Republican Party, and they were using me to use Maria. And this truth is going to be so explosive.
Erase every moment from your memory.
If you do this long enough, you begin to feel like an enemy of your own country.
They're going to arrest this Russian grad student so they could say, no, there is an actual Russian at the center of our Russian collusion drama. A civilization all begins with the rule of law. And once that gets corrupted, it's like my worst fears have just been realized. I don't know, maybe I'm just being sensitive.
Yeah, I don't think you're being sensitive, Patrick. But
I'm not sure.
Yeah, hold on, Lance.
I'm not sure I see you as a sensitive guy.
But
yet.
in order
Go ahead,
to, if you want to get this documentary, just go to Enemy Within docuseries.com, put the promo code TBM. It's $4.99, and I was just watching these series right before we had Patrick come on the show. I haven't finished. And normally, I'm one that kidnaps our guests and keeps them on longer. I actually want to get rid of them so I can finish watching that. But I wouldn't do that to you, Patrick, because it's just like, it does keep you off your seat. And just got to the third part, and I'm telling you, for $4.99, you want to know the truth?
Yeah, it's and there's so much information in it, and when you pair it up with the book, I'd recommend you get both. I don't know if you have a package on the website or not. You need the book and you need the docuseries. You should buy both. You can buy this over on Amazon. That's where I bought it. Obviously, the easiest place to do it. But so, Patrick, man, this is obviously, the documentary is very controversial. I am sure the United States government is not very happy that this has come out. I don't know if you've had any feedback yet. But what made you decide that the book wasn't enough? What made you decide, like, you know what? And by the way, we know the guys at Spiro Pictures. We know Matt over there, and he's great. He's come on the show. We've had him on the show before. Did somebody approach you, or did you sit behind the scenes and said, "Look, I'm tired of getting attacked. I'm tired of people, saying it's unbelievable. It doesn't seem credible. It doesn't." I saw all the quotes about you. They spend so many times using adjectives to describe what is impossible. But isn't that the truth? I mean, that's what they did to so many. You look at what's happened in so many operations. If they can't control you financially, which they weren't able to do that, then they try to discredit you, right? That's how they create conspiracy theorists, MAGA, he's obviously not credible. He may in fact be crazy, but now that you're doing this documentary, have they doubled down on you?
Well, it's kind of funny. If anything, I've been in a cone of silence. Well, there's a lot of questions there. First of all, I did this because I waited like a stump, for John Durham. And they kept me silent for 4 years. I walked into the DOJ in in April 2019 and explained what was really going on. 10 days later, they launched the Durham Commission. They did this, the other, and they said, just keep quiet, Pat, just keep quiet. We're going to round up 100 traitors. Just keep quiet. And they strung me along for 4 years. And then they delivered a report that was a complete cover-up. And basically, their report is the second volume of a 2-volume report, and they've hidden volume 1. And so I've come out and explained it all didn't start July 2016. That's a flat lie. It started July of 2015. There was a whole year of handling Maria and using her. And then, so that's what got me to write. That's what got me to write this story. And then after I'd written the story, so many people responded, people responded so strongly to it that quickly people were saying, let's make this into a movie. Let us make this into a movie. I have to say, I know I'm, I know I'm not, I know I'm biased, but the movie came out far better than I had any expectation of. And I only just showed up and did interviews. I sat and did interviews. They had the book, the weekly interviews, and that was me. And General Flynn really, and Matt Thayer and his wife Joy made the movie. So I hope that answers.
Well, I think you went to the right source. I think Matt's obviously highly skilled, and General Flynn, having already done his own documentary, clearly that's he did a good job on that. Great documentary. He's had a high level of success. Everything I can say to General Flynn, to Mike, we want only the best for him, because I think he's a real American patriot, and he's a much better human being than I will ever be. I should strive to try to be the kind of human being as he surprised me. That story about saving that 11-year-old from drowning always resonates with me when he was a child. I don't know if you know that about Flynn, how he saved the child's life that was drowning when he was a child.
I know that he saved somebody's life in the invasion of Grenada. He saved a couple GIs' life.
Yeah, 2 guys that were drowning jumped off a 46-foot cliff, jumped into the water because the guys were obviously down there and obviously weren't good swimmers. So, yeah, there's that story. But he saved it when he was 11. It actually ended up in the local newspaper, and he actually saved an 11-year-old from drowning. Seems to be a pattern in his life that he's been a hero since day one. So my hat's off to him. He's an interesting character, but Matt Thayer's great. He's a great storyteller, and that's probably why you got the quality of picture. He's highly skilled at documentaries, I think. But let's go into this for a second here. So you're obviously well educated, right? You've got a crazy education background. I'm sorry, what, George?
Dartmouth. He went to Dartmouth College.
Yeah, and Cambridge.
Cambridge and Stanford.
And Stanford. Yeah, you went to some really moochy schools. I don't know why you couldn't find better schools to go to, Patrick.
I had cancer. As soon as I got out of Dartmouth, I had cancer. I really had it my last year and a half at Dartmouth, but I didn't know it. And when I got out,
but you cured cancer 3 times, did you not?
I would. I had cancer 3 times.
Freaking crazy.
My whole 20s was like either in a hospital. I spent 2.5 years in hospitals, and I was convalescing. So really from 22 to 28, I was either in hospitals or I was in university setting, because what I did, I could not have held a normal job, but it was possible for me to be a graduate student. I Stanford program in mathematical logic. And I went out for a 1-year master's in mathematical logic. And I was there just a few months when I got sick with cancer again. It just one thing led to another. But really, I spent my 20s more or less in and out of universities, getting degrees. And I actually shifted from that. I came across what I would call early woke. And I really reacted against it and moved more into political philosophy and economics, and really reacted negatively against what I saw there and in Cambridge that has now become ubiquitous, which is what we can now call woke. I was so astonished how little they knew, of how much they were just jettisoning, like without understanding.
Our education system is obviously
your health is okay now?
Actually not, but I mean, it's as good as it. I've had 115 surgeries, and they've stopped my heart 400 times. And I'm actually back.
Wow.
You're asking.
I'll say a prayer. No, I'll say a prayer for you, and hopefully you.
Yeah,
so
we will for sure.
Quite quick question: if Trump wins, and I'm skeptical because I've seen so many anomalies lately that I don't trust the voting system. But if he wins, is there a position for you in that administration?
No, I don't think so. I think that's not why I did any of this. I wish him the best. I think that I think that the people around him detest me, is what I hear. The people around him are the one guy that they cannot have anywhere close to you, Mr. President, is Patrick Byrne. They really detest me. And, that's okay. I don't care. I'm not.
If that was me, that would have the exact opposite effect, because he was ill-advised last time. He surrounded himself with many people.
He's still being ill-advised.
Yeah,
he's still got bad people
around him.
On
the back of my neck last time. I think the people that he had around him, I would have thinned out that herd very quickly if it was my responsibility. But I think we need real, true loyalists like yourself. I think that's part of it.
My loyalty is to the Constitution, and he's been betrayed by so many close people that he's now fixated on just having people who are, loyal to him. And I actually grew to like him, and I'm not just saying this. I really grew to like him. I've made clear I didn't vote for him either time. I'm a small L libertarian, small R Republican.
Yeah.
But I came to, as soon as he got into power, he started really growing on me by the way he made the mainstream media flip out. And I realized, and I was wrong. I was wrong about him. I really was wrong about him. He's very sharp. I spent this famous 4.5 hour meeting in the Oval Office with him. He's much sharper than I had any idea. He's quick as it can be. And
East Coast.
I could help if he wanted me. He could always call on. He knows where to call me. But my guess is the people around him would prevent. But I'm no loss. The biggest thing I can't understand is how he let the Reince Priebus crowd and Mike Pence crowd talk him into getting rid of Flynn. Flynn, 3 weeks into his first term, I'm afraid his goose was cooked. Once he let them take Flynn out, his goose was cooked.
Yeah, that was part of the op. They had to get the real people that couldn't be converted, that couldn't be compromised or hadn't been compromised. Because let's face it, extortion and bribery, that's the tool, right? That they get them compromised, they get them in book deals or foreign money or super PACs or bribery like Operation Snow Globe. Once they've got them in control, then they can manipulate anything they want. At the end of the day, they guarantee them incredible amounts of wealth through insider trading or the coveted $5 million book deal where you don't need to deliver the book. And these are people that are making $200,000 a year. So, and they're surrounded by, lobbyists with literally billions of dollars available to them. So George, go ahead. You were going to say something, George.
Clarence Thomas has a friend who's a rich guy who takes him away on vacation. Okay. And if you had to go and, takes him off on his yacht. Well, if you had to buy that vacation on a yacht, that might cost you $1 million. So they might, although the marginal cost to that billionaire who takes him is zero. But they say, well, he's worth $300,000 what that trip was worth. Meanwhile, they get, they write their biographies that nobody reads, and they get 10 million, 50 million, and
or like they sell paintings that suck, like Hunter Biden, and gets paid for that. But so
you get $500,000 for a crappy piece of art. Go ahead,
if
George.
Trump, if he wins, and we'll know right away if he's still making bad picks, because McCarthy from California is trying to be his chief of staff. If that happens, forget about it. It'd be disaster. We know it's over.
But he's got, the good news is that my understanding is the RNC really gave him 4 choices for his vice presidential candidate, or they weren't going to back him, give him any money or anything. And he took, now he doesn't understand his power. He could wipe out the RNC. He put Larry Trump over, but he could flex his muscle much harder. But my understanding is that that was the offer he made. And he picked J.D. Vance, who was the most MAGA of the 4 choices he had. So that's encouraging.
But I still think the RNC is not fully 100% behind them right now.
Not at all.
Even though Larry Trump's there. Yeah, they're still doing, there's ways they could have gone on with more lawsuits or done more things to help his campaign. And they haven't. So I'm not,
We'll see. My concern is even if he wins, obviously I believe he gets the most votes in history. What they report is another thing. And then I'm also worried that they've got a plan in place. About 4 or 5 nights ago, they were doing touch and goes with Blackhawks and Chinooks in Washington, D.C. at 11 o'clock at night. Why they were doing touch and goes at this time, I don't know. And then, of course, there's some odd construction going on. They say it's for the inauguration, but they've never built anything for the inauguration in October. They've never done that before. So I don't know if they're trying to be predictive of weather patterns or what. That's the story they're giving the press. But the touch and goes are pretty unnerving. That would make you wonder, because obviously we only know those are for 2 things, for pickup or drop off. And obviously right there in D.C. So they've got some kind of concerns. I understand they're building a fence around Kamala Harris's D.C. residence as we speak right now. There's a fence getting installed. So they're already planning that there's going to be some kind of social or, obviously political unrest. Are they going to cause it? Are we going to be looking at a Black Swan event? I don't know. It's unsettling. But I want to go back to the documentary. I want to talk about this.
Just mention, if anything does happen, we are to stay peaceful and do not descend on D.C.
Absolutely.
When J6 came, my advice, my recommendation and hope had been that there would have been protests at state capitals, and we had our forces out at state capitals peacefully protesting.
Yeah.
not pulling millions of people together on DC, which is looking like they can characterize it different ways, but peaceful protests at all the state capitals. And we have to be out and show it's time that we get over this whole J6 inhibition. It's clearly it was cooked up by the Democrats anyway, but their goal is going to be to become ungovernable. If Kamala doesn't win, they're going to be, which she won't unless they rig, it's become ungovernable. And that's supposed to, this is a color revolution, become ungovernable. The media, the mainstream media, which we've so discredited, but the pattern is they become ungovernable. The mainstream media promotes that as, oh, these are the heroes fighting for democracy. And then the courts are the ultimate decision maker. And they say, okay, well, they're going to rule. So we're breaking that up by the mainstream media has no credibility. It's the lowest ever. It's below Congress now, if that's possible. And secondly, it's time that it's okay for us to be visible with our flags, with patriotic, it's okay to be visible, but we're not threatening anybody. There's no violence. We're not rushing to DC. It should be done out at all the states. So all the states see that we're not going to accept a Bolshevik revolution, which is really what this is.
I think that's well said. Now, listen, you guys, you should go over there, enemywithindocuseries.com. Head over there and go over and buy the documentary. You get all 3 parts of the series. You can have a movie night at your house. I think it's about almost an hour and a half total, or an hour and 40 minutes, or an hour and 30 minutes.
No, it's longer. Each episode is like 50 minutes.
Oh, okay, so there you go. So you're getting basically 3 different segments. The stuff so far is amazing. So you definitely want to go over there. It's $4.99. Are you kidding me? This is like the deal of the century. Get over there, and you definitely want to buy it. Number one, and do that. If you haven't bought Patrick's book, I recommend you go do that. But Patrick, I got to ask you about a story I heard. I don't know how true it is. Somebody told me about a story of tractor trailers across the country that are not part of the normal election system, transporting 150,000 ballots in some kind of a clandestine operation. I understood that you might have some knowledge about that. I don't know what you can talk about or can't talk about. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You tell me, is this something you can discuss?
Sure. Since it's out there in various forms, I can tell you a little bit that we weeks ago got wind of from an insider, frankly, of an operation based in Tacoma, Washington. And I forget how many trucks it was, but it was many dozens of trucks leaving in dispersing and going to different mail centers around the country. There was a whole network of citizens who set up surveillance and followed and have documentation. So yeah, I think they scattered tens of millions of ballots through the system to intake into different postal parts or service around the country.
Do you think anything will come from it, or is it another one of those things that we get reported that we know is true, but nobody does anything?
Well, all the systems are corrupt. What we really need is a judiciary who remembers Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, is that the Constitution is a contract between the states and the federal government. And the contract says federal government, will maintain a Republican form of government in all the states. And what that means is Rhode Island can't vote themselves into being a kingdom. They have to have, and that what the federal government has allowed is through mass scale corruption, is to allow this closed circle of corruption to take over the system and to take over the country. And there's no way out of this. If we don't stop it now, it's done. We're done. What the left thinks they do is they end up in charge. What's really going to happen is there will be a complete supply chain collapse, food, fuel, and pharmaceuticals. It'll be like a big EMP strike. 80 to 90% of people die in the first year. There's a 3-year period where the cartels are given 3 years to rape, pillage, loot, and burn, and then China occupies, and we become new China. And that's straight out of the Chinese literature, national security literature. That's not fanciful. That's the plan. They want to get us fighting each other. And Tren de Aragua, this Venezuelan group, is everywhere: Atlanta, Chicago, New York, LA. I think their orders are on Wednesday to start going crazy. They've been now given orders to shoot on law enforcement. And they're going to try to get the black gangs to fight with the Sicilian or white mafias. And they're going to try to get a race war started. And the place to start it is with the This is no offense to our good Italian friends here, but the Sicilian mafia and criminal element to be fighting the black criminal element.
Yeah.
Once that
Well, there's no doubt the potential for that is right there. Trade de Aragua has actually been breaking into houses here in Colorado. I'm in the socialist state of Colorado. George is in New Jersey right now, so it's gotten complicated. Well, listen, Patrick. First of all, I want to thank you for taking so much time out of your schedule for us. I really appreciate it. We just hang around backstage when we cut off here in a minute. I just want to talk to you for one more minute. So listen, if you guys like the show, obviously the best way to support the show is number one, go out and buy Patrick Byrne's book, Danger Close. Number two, go out and sign up for the documentary. Obviously, on this show, it's to educate and unify the country one episode at a time. We want you to go out, spend the $5. It's really about that. It's going to be promo code TBM. I don't know if they've got it active or yet, because obviously this is one of the first interviews Patrick's done about the documentary. So we're way ahead of the curve here for the audience. And if you're not following Patrick Byrne on social media, Patrick, where can they find you on X, True Social, Getter, or anywhere else you're at?
X, Patrick Byrne, at Patrick Byrne at Twitter. I'm also on Locals. I do more, Locals is more for Ask Me Anything. It's a live exchange.
Gotcha.
Twitter. And
so get over there and subscribe to him on Locals.
The American Project. Be a $5 a month supporter of the American Project. If you knew what we have done behind the scenes and all these lawsuits and all these things from Border 911 to the vaccine fund, we were the first out there with Mike Flynn spitting all these elements of this movement up at the very beginning 4 years ago. So American Project, please go on and become a $5 a month sponsor.
Great advice, and we appreciate you sharing that with the audience. Again, Patrick, we're blessed to have had you on the show. We really appreciate the information you provided. Obviously, really important, and of course, the information you gave prior to the most important election in U.S. history, in my opinion, is right now. And I'm not just saying that to make it sound hyperbole. I actually believe it. George, last words for our audience before we head out.
Thank you, Patrick. I hope and pray that your health remains well. Keep up fighting. We're right there with you, sir. Tomorrow night, starting 7 p.m. Eastern, we're doing 5-hour election coverage with Liberty News Media. So be there. We'll be live. God bless.
If we lose freedom here, there is no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
As an American who keeps up with the real news, you know by now the severity of the economic issues that are plaguing our great nation. My name is Jonathan Rose, and I'm the CEO of Genesis Gold Group, the only major faith-driven company in the industry. 2024 is a year full of uncertainties, with trillions of dollars in national debt, inflation impacting your savings, and a pivotal election year. Your peace of mind is more valuable than ever. Now is the time to use physical gold and silver to preserve your hard-earned retirement savings with a gold IRA. Call Genesis Gold Group today. Our team has decades of experience helping folks just like you take their first step on the path to true financial freedom with a gold and silver IRA.
Call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD for a no-commitment, informative consultation with one of our experts to find out if we can be a fit for you. Call now at 1-800-200-4653 or visit genesisgoldgroup.com.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar, the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. The smart choice for savvy investors and preppers alike. With Silver Prepper Bars, you're ready for whatever tomorrow brings.
They would run up to the bamboo fence and they would be shooting between the bamboo at the buildings, and just shooting inside.
The wanted man is Joseph Coney, charged with abducting huge numbers of children, forcing them to kill and mutilate innocent victims.
Somebody had to pay the price. Sam did that.
Sam Childers never stopped because the bad things never stop.
There is only one Sam Childers. There is no one else like him in the world. And I said to him, I says, would you go now to get Coney in the Congo? He says, without a doubt, in a second.
Now it's the DRC. Tell us what's happening to children in the DRC.
You have ISIS there, you have Islamic State, and you have ADF.
They say Joseph Kony's still alive. He's in the Congo, and now God has me in the Congo. So hopefully we'll meet up one day. But maybe I can lead him to the Lord or send him there, one or the other, huh?